So I'm here to put a little context on the exciting work that I'm doing with them and with others in this wonderful new course called Making the Most of Michigan. But I want to put it in the context of watching this work mature over many years. So way back, I taught a first-year seminar called something like Diversity in a Worldwide Perspective, where I wanted students to understand how places all around the world are dealing with diverse populations and the challenges that they face. And in that course, at the end of the term, I wanted them to do something that gave them some intentionality about how they were going to use diversity at Michigan. So their final project was to go to the web, search stuff that might be of interest to them, and then give me a picture of what they were going to do in the next 4 years. Now, I knew they were not going to do all those things. That wasn't the point. It was to start thinking intentionally in goal setting about what it is they're going to do at Michigan that's going to make this a different experience than if they just simply went to college, as many people do, and let it all happen. So the current work that the people with me right now are going to talk about is exactly that. It's how to help first-year students begin to be intentional learners, integrate across everything they're doing, and start this wonderful Making the Most of Michigan. So watching IGR over many years, one of the founders 25 years ago, watching the housing course, which has been in place for 15 years, I hope the Assembly really gets what incredible maturity we now have in the division with respect to integrative learning. So I'm going to turn it over to Martha Kirkus and to Praveen Loganathan and to Scott Cohen, who are doing the work along with Andrew Blumenthal and me. I'm once again honored to be part of a wonderful new learning initiative in Michigan.
Thank you very much. So to give you a little bit of information from our slide. So indeed, first-year students are beginning their integrated learning. So right at the very beginning, that's something that we're very excited about instead of them waiting to get on campus and getting it rolled out. They are setting short, long, and lifelong goals. We introduce them to the ideas of social identity so that they know what that is as a concept and categories and what that means to themselves and what their own social identities are, and how these social identities influence their values and their goals that they're setting. The reflection is on the connections between their in-class and their beyond the classroom experiences related to their goals, the activities, and the learning that they're doing. Two other things that we have incorporated in this class that are new and that you know about are relationship remix and change it up workshops. Those are about healthy relationships and bystander intervention. We also have working with us on that all of the res staff, because they are the ones that are getting their students together and taking them to these workshops. So again, we are a team, but there's a whole bigger sets of teams of people that are part of this and support the work. The peer facilitation is by resident assistants, the peer academic success specialists, and resident coordinators who have all taken social psychology and community settings, their staff class, as they would call it. And then those that are the peer facilitators are in leadership and facilitation in building community. So the way that this works is that eventually the students now in UC 170, Making the Most of Michigan, will eventually apply to be res staff and take UC 421. And then they will want to be facilitators and do 470 and cycle back to leading the thing that they are in right now. And we have seen that already happen. Praveen is one of the people who has been a student in UC 170 in the past and now is a facilitator.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Praveen Loganathan. I am a sophomore BBA at the Ross School of Business. Okay, so I'm actually really honored to have a chance to speak to all of you and tell you my experience here at the University of Michigan so far. I just want to tell you why I had the chance to stand right here and talk in front of you. And earlier today, they showed you my social identity page and my portfolio. And I want to tell you the story behind it. And the idea is, before I came to U of M, I did not know what the term social justice meant at all. No, zero clue. I didn't know the difference between equality and equity. And when my facilitator, my peer facilitator taught me was, instead of just giving me a definition and telling me to memorize it, he said reflect on your experiences. So what I reflected was, in high school, before I came to U of M, I worked at McDonald's. And at McDonald's, I was a fry cook. So I flipped burgers and I worked pretty much in the back, didn't really want to come up front. So one day, my manager told me to take my fryer and go clean it outside. Wasn't part of my job description, but I was happy to do it. And I was cleaning this fryer, and a mom and a boy walked by me. The boy asked the mom, "What is that boy doing?" And he was obviously talking about me, so I smiled and waved, just was trying to be nice. And then the mom told her little son that, don't worry about it, if you do well in school, you won't have to do it. Now, did this mom know that I was going to the University of Michigan, that I was a smart student? No. But it took me a second, I reflected on that experience, and I realized, why was I working in the back of the fryer? Because the reason was, I was kind of embarrassed to come up front. Well, I could have done stuff, but I did take initiative later in the year to go up and run the head, run cashier, be part of customer services, and that was the idea, reflecting on my key experiences. Because I knew what social equity was all along. I just had to reflect on my key experiences. And that's why I found my passion for social justice, and I continued it. I joined Res Ed, I became part of staff, and I joined facilitating UC 170. And in my facilitation, my students are loving what they're learning. And what they're learning is the big picture. They get to connect the dots of what they learn. Not just that, but they're learning about their key experience, philosophy statements, everything in life, including their identities. They're connecting relationship remix and change it up. They told me to be honest with you. They said that during the class time, this could be class time spent studying. It could be stressful with all their other work. But when they're in the classroom, they feel relaxed. They feel like they have an open setting to talk about identities and feelings and their experiences in a classroom setting, run by a peer facilitator like me. But the big question at the end of the day is this just something that happens at U of M, or is it something that I will continue on into my work experience? And the answer is yes. In addition to being part of Res Ed, I've also found my passion in entrepreneurship, and I've actually had the chance to start my own company. So it's called Go Green Technologies, a green technology firm that creates solar, wind, and hydrogen technology to help homes eliminate fossil fuel use. I'm implementing this technology in Maryland and in Detroit. And the idea is, what I've learned from social justice, I'm not just applying it in Res Ed, but I'm applying it in my workforce. I'm creating an inclusive community, a socially just workplace for my employees, for my staff, so we can discuss ideas and feel inclusive with everything we do. And it's that idea. My startup right now is invested by the University of Michigan. There's a lot of money. And my goal is not to just double business, but create an inclusive community. I'm using the skills I've learned in integrative learning to apply it to my workforce. And one day when I get a job in a Fortune 500 company, I plan to continue to create that inclusive environment. And it's only possible today because of the work that you all are doing here today. I am honored to be speaking here because I think about what my students have wrote in my portfolio. They've talked about the experiences in their high school coming in and how admissions picked them up, stories they wrote. They're talking about how their first day moving into University of Michigan, how they interact with their RA, playing intramural sports, going to their first football game. They talk about all these experiences in their portfolio. And the reason behind it is, students like me are not rare. There's tens of thousands of us outside waiting to make a difference. And we can't do it without amazing faculty and staff like you. Thank you.
I've learned you should never follow her behind. But I'm told I have to. I'm Scott Cohen. I'm a hall director for Bates 2, and we get to play a role as a co-coordinator for UC 470 and UC 170, Making the Most of Michigan. And so I think everything's been said perfectly, again, by Praveen. Martha, Pat, Amy. But I did want to talk about our numbers continuing to grow as well, as Praveen was saying, that once the students get into the class, they have a great experience. They see all their different interactions connecting and how that can potentially play out later for them in their future. We've gone from having 5 facilitators to 10 facilitators to 22 this semester. So it's really starting to catch on, as well as having over 100 students total, coming from, again, 20 less than a year ago. And so it continues to grow. We continue to create a culture around that. We continue to make connections to great workshops like relationship remix, change it up. And so as the data shows, it's good to continue that extension. So it's not just one workshop, but they're continuing to follow that progression and learn new things about themselves, what it means to be a bystander, what it means to be involved in a healthy relationship. They recently finished an activity called the 1,000 Word Picture Project, in which they look at how media describes relationships. And a picture is worth 1,000 words, and getting to see how everyone has a diverse idea around healthy relationships and having that opportunity for reflection or indwelling. So we just wanted to give a little bit more context around that, and thank you for your time.
So the Ginsberg Center as a whole is integrating integrative learning theory into the work, but I was asked to talk to you this morning about what we call ELP, or Engaged Learning Partnerships. So the summer of 2013 is when we started, after we transitioned the historical project community back to LS&A and sociology. And I wanted to just kind of give you a snapshot of some of the academic partnerships that we started. As you can see, they are pharmacy, LS&A, OAMI, School of Information, School of Dentistry, School of Education, School of Nursing, School of Public Health. These are ongoing and current partnerships that yours truly tries to maintain on her own. I also teach in the School of Social Work, and this is where I get to integrate the full services of integrative learning into the classroom. So everything from the syllabus creation to rubrics, to the beginning assessment that Amy mentioned earlier, the post-assessment that we mentioned earlier. Also, Saman talked about how sometimes we are taking this theory and process outside of student life. And so the first AABEEL conference that Amy mentioned earlier, I gave a workshop, and the new director for the Michigan Campus Compact was there, and has since asked me to present at 2 Michigan Campus Compact presentations around the reflective process. So this past Friday, I did a workshop with some students on what I call cultural humility and service, which is around reflection in their service work for the Active Student Leaders Conference. And then in November, I was asked to do something around no more victory narratives, which is a new concept in the reflective process for the MICC's annual fall networking. I have some confirmed and upcoming staff lectures, as well as connections with partners currently working with the English Language Institute, the Stamp School of Art and Design, as well as LS&A's American Culture. Some bigger projects in the works I've reached out to over the summer, and so we're still trying to see what these partnerships will look like, are with the Alumni Association's Leads Scholars, as well as Student Life's Bladen Scholars. So looking ahead, ELP is currently focusing on documenting, so getting the numbers of students who are impacted. With the inaugural year, we didn't do that, so we want to make sure we're doing that. And then as a whole, Ginsberg Center is looking to focus our efforts on documenting more student services or student stories. I think that was 3 minutes.